everybody. Welcome to Tom Curran's Patriots Talk Podcast. Phil Perry, as always, alongside, bringing the knowledge. We are at Super Bowl 58 in Las Vegas. How jam-packed is this program? So jam-packed, I needed to write it all out. First things first, we're going to talk about the imprint that Eliot Wolf is putting on this franchise. So many hires to discuss, and so many with ties to Eliot Wolf. Next up, we got Gronk on the threat to the Patriots dynasty that Kansas City was. Back to the Patriots, we're going to talk about the importance of adding a veteran quarterback. Kendrick Bourne is behind us right now, flapping his gums. We've already talked to him. The Patriots, are they a covetable destination? Do people really want to come here? I'm going to explain why it's a tough sell. Finally, we're going to have marathon bombing survivor Marc Fucarile talking about, at the very end of this pod, the important things that he's doing to help disabled folks find support they need. All right, first things first, though. Let's get into this Eliot Wolf imprint. Phil, Alonzo Highsmith, who worked with Eliot in Cleveland and Green Bay, has been added to the scouting department. Additionally, Alex Van Pelt, your offensive coordinator. Additionally, Ben McAdoo, who was at Green Bay. I don't know if he overlapped with Eliot or not.
He did.
Bam. Jerry Montgomery's your defensive line coach. He overlapped with Eliot Wolf. Scott Peters is your offensive line coach, just announced. Finally, T.C. McCartney, who recently served as the tight ends coach in Cleveland alongside Alex Van Pelt, so by osmosis, also an Eliot Wolf hire.
Right.
Let it rip, big brain.
Well, listen, this looks like Eliot Wolf is going to be your GM, ostensibly. And Ian Rappaport of NFL Media reporting today that he could even have control of the 53-man roster. This is the way it was trending even before we got to the Gerard Mayo hiring officially as new head coach. When I spoke to people around that time, Tom, what I was told was expect both Eliot Wolf and Matt Groh to stick in the front office, for them both to have critical roles. But the more and more people that you speak to, the more it became clear the GM, quote unquote, of those two front office guys that had assisted Bill Belichick, the more qualified to oversee the entire operation was Eliot Wolf, given his background. Multiple different teams as the number two in a couple different front offices, both in Green Bay and in Cleveland. Just has a great reputation across the NFL. And so this doesn't surprise me. The one surprising aspect to it is, if he gets 53-man roster control, it's not that he's not qualified, but would NFL rules dictate that the Patriots conduct a real search and satisfy the Rooney Rule? And so that to me is still a question. And I want to talk to somebody from the league today to see if there is something that the Patriots have to do to make sure they can make this transition from Bill Belichick to Eliot Wolf without going through a proper search.
And the Patriots have, over the years, if the Kraft family didn't know previous, Bill has certainly brought them up to speed on it. If you never call anybody the GM, then maybe you don't even have a GM. So we've heard talk, and Gerard has said it himself, I'm the final say guy. I'm the point of the spear. I'm getting help from Eliot and Matt Groh. But I wonder if that is the design. If so, that might be a little bit of gilding the lily and trying to make it look one way when another is there. I think people have an issue. To me, I look at the Eliot Wolf hire and say, he's worked in a lot of places. He seems to be well-liked, well thought of. He is part of an organization that did have significant swings and misses in free agency, swings and misses in the draft, signings like Juju Smith-Schuster instead of Jacoby Myers. So it does beg the question of, should they have done a search where they brought in more GM candidates instead of just saying, let's see how Eliot does without Bill over him?
At least, Tom, to acquire some information from outside your building, at the very least. Right? I understand wanting to promote from within. Bill Belichick did it for a long time. Robert Kraft has said many times publicly, including at Gerard Mayo's introductory presser, that the way he likes to operate his businesses is to try to maintain some consistency, maintain some measure of culture when there is transition, and elevate from within. So if that's your approach and if that's your preference, I totally understand that. But why not take this opportunity for the first time in over 20 years where you have a new head coach coming in, where you have a new lead personnel person coming in, to just sample what's around the league in some different locations, some very successful locations, including I wrote about this recently for NBC Sports Boston.com. Mike Borgonzi's the assistant general manager. This is just a for example. But I caught up with him at media night. I cornered him on the field there and said, hey, you're a local guy. You're assistant GM. You've been with the Chiefs for 15 years. Any interest in this Patriots GM job if it opens up? And he called it a dream job for a variety of different reasons. And so that's someone who is uber qualified. Dave Ziegler was just a general manager. Now he's available. He's somebody who, my belief is, based on what I've heard, he would have loved to interview for an opportunity here in New England. And maybe those guys will still have an opportunity, whether it's after the draft or before, what have you. I just think not trying to sample as much as you can when you're exiting the Bill Belichick era is a bit of a missed opportunity.
Scott Pioli and Thomas Dimitroff, two other names that are familiar with the Patriots and with the organization and with the Crafts. I think this underscores the why of it, as we sit here and say, well, why would they do that? And that is the fact that 4-13 was once again beyond anybody's expectation. Is this rushed? Is this reactionary? Are the Patriots moving in a way that they didn't expect to be moving and kind of doing it on the fly? 1,000,000%, that is absolutely accurate. They looked at this team and said they'll never bottom out under Bill, so we'll sign Bill to his 2 years. He'll finish it out. We'll have Gerard for 2 years in 2025. We'll make a decision on this. Or at the end of 2024, we'll make a decision on this. Well, it all got sped up, and the Patriots, I think, looked at their situation, looked at the condition of the team on the field, looked at their personnel, looked at the decisions that Bill had made in free agency in 2021, what he had done with the quarterback, and said, we got to move now. So they have mobilized much more quickly than they expected to. So why is there no interviews for different head coaches? Why are there no interviews for general managers? To me, it's we have just torn down a massive sequoia, and now as we clean up around it, we have to have people in these positions, and we do. And they're going to figure out how well those people do. What I think is important to remember, though, is if Eliot Wolf is putting his imprint on this organization and Gerard Mayo's the head coach, you have to give them, at the minimum, 3 years. So these decisions that are being made by the seat of their pants to an extent, because they didn't expect Bill to have the season Bill did, are going to be with them, not, hey, just until the end of the draft, or hey, just until the end of this year, and then we'll reset. These are decisions that are going to shape this organization that are being made on the fly, and you hope they work out, because we like a good product, you guys like a good product, but there's a risk there, and what better place than to be in Vegas to say, what a gamble!
You know what's, as we're talking about this, what's occurring to me too, a benefit of, again, barring any change to an NFL rule that would require them to go through a more thorough interview process, one of the benefits of going with Gerard Mayo, having him succeed Bill Belichick, because that was written into his contract, going with Eliot Wolf, who's already been in the building, is it does probably, Tom, expedite the process a bit. If you had to go through filling out your coaching staff and then figuring out what you want at general manager and really conducting extensive, exhaustive searches for both of those as well as offensive coordinator, that could really take some time. And this is such an important offseason. You want to try to be on top of your stuff as soon as humanly possible. Yeah. And so maybe this is their attempt to make sure that they're as ready as they can be for things like the combine, the pre-draft process, free agency, et cetera.
Yeah, I mean, you can make a bunch of decisions that are seemingly in haste and have them work out. But I've used this example before. When Tom Coughlin took over the Jacksonville Jaguars in 1995, he took the year off in 1994 and spent the entire year compiling a binder for everything that he would do. And when he came back, he was able to have this entire script of things that he was going to do with the 1995 Jaguars. And that 1995 Jaguars team, in 1996, they knocked off the Denver Broncos and paved the way for the Patriots to get to the Super Bowl. And they were a good team for a period of time. There was a lot of thought and planning that went into that expansion team. The Patriots folks right now, they are quite like an expansion team in many ways, especially on offense. They don't have an expansion draft to fill out their roster, so they have to do it in a different way. So to me,
unfortunately for them, they could use one.
You can hit on all these. Eliot Wolf might be great. Alex Van Pelt might be the antidote you need on offense. You hit on Jaden Daniels. You find the right veteran quarterback. Gerard Mayo is the culture setter that you want, and the defense doesn't miss a beat, even though Steve Belichick has gone elsewhere, and you re-sign all the guys who are leaving that are key and also find some new free agents. But this is a 3 or 4 year process that the Patriots are flying into, because they didn't expect to have to do it.
Here's what I like about at least understanding with a little bit more certainty who's going to be running the front office and who's going to be running the offense. Is now, Tom, we can dig into what this means. What does it mean? You're going to be Green Bay East? Okay. How have Green Bay's drafts been the last several years, or during Eliot Wolf's tenure there in Green Bay, or at least when he was high enough up on the food chain to be able to impact some of those decisions? Was he in on scouting Jair Alexander? Honestly, I'm making this up on the fly. I'm not sure. I think he was in Cleveland by that point, or New England by that point.
See, don't start trying to get into personnel.
Kenny Clark, but let's really dig into this. What's his history?
Well,
what's his history
philosophy?
when it comes to the draft? What's his philosophy when it comes to the draft? What positions do they take in the first round, in the second round, and then offensively? It does look more and more like, with Van Pelt coming from Cleveland, with him bringing an offensive line coach from Cleveland, with him bringing a quarterbacks coach from Cleveland, this is looking like, and I think we can say this with some certainty, and this is how league people are looking at it. I had a chance to talk to someone who worked with all three of those guys in Cleveland and said he's expecting the Patriots to run a version of the Cleveland offense, which is Kevin Stefanski's offense, which was Gary Kubiak's offense, which was essentially Mike Shanahan's offense, which is essentially the Kyle Shanahan offense. And that's something that I think Patriots fans can get excited about.
Right.
That is what has proven to be, Tom, a quarterbacking cheat code. It's taken average quarterbacks and made them good. It's taken good quarterbacks and made them great. Matt Ryan was an MVP when he finally fully embraced the Kyle Shanahan offense in Atlanta. So if you get the right quarterback and you structure it firmly enough, because that's sort of how this offense is known to be, is very structured, if they can follow the steps, 1 to 2 to 3, half-field reads, get some concepts that are easy for quarterbacks to understand, you could find immediate success the way C.J. Stroud did in a similar offense in Houston just this past season.
Okay. I was going to zigzag to the Gronk dynasty conversation, but instead I want to, Phil, go to the veteran quarterback thing. Here's Mike Lombardi on Felger and Maz yesterday discussing the one shortcoming he really highlighted for Bill Belichick, and that was his failure to bring in a veteran quarterback.
I think the biggest mistake they made as an organization was not bringing competition in behind Mac, because Mac wasn't very good. Now, everybody said it was because of Matt Patricia, and everybody firmly believed that Billy O'Brien would be able to fix that, and obviously that didn't happen.
All right, that was a criticism I had as well. Now, Lombardi is saying a veteran quarterback should have been brought in to compete with Mac Jones in the offseason. Once it became clear to me that Bailey Zappi outright sucked, I was like, okay, you need a backup to be behind Mac in case something bad happens. But free agency's a month away. We keep hearing people mentioning Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah, we started that here in the Patriots Talk Podcast,
Which
by
is
the way. I want to plant my flag there. Of course it's fine.
But
Nobody's saying it's going to be a franchise-altering sort of decision.
But he's a placeholder.
Yeah.
Does he have to be the guy? To me, who your veteran quarterback is matters a lot. And as you talk about, hey, this offense can turn a mediocre player into a decent one. I'm going to go back there again. Well, why not just keep Mac friggin' Jones? Also sign a veteran, please. Also sign a veteran. But you can go 4 deep into June and July. You can have your Zappi, you can have your Jones, you can have your Minshew or Jacoby Brissett, and you can have your Jaden Daniels. You can do that. That's fair. Stupid?
What if Mac Jones doesn't want to be here, Tom?
Well, then he can go. I mean, you're not going to cry, but I'm still saying he's resolvable. He's there. He's under contract.
Well, and again, we've explained this on Early Edition recently. Who loved Mac Jones maybe more than anybody
You.
in the 2021 draft?
No.
Kyle Shanahan. Almost drafted him at number 3 overall. So if that's the kind of offense you're running and you think this is somebody who can process quickly, take the throws that are there, and not necessarily be a physical freak or superstar. Jimmy Garoppolo, Brock Purdy, both these guys got 2 Super Bowls in a version of this offense. Those guys are nobody's idea of the quote-unquote prototype at the quarterback position based on size, arm strength, athleticism, etc. So, yes, I think in theory, Tom, it makes sense what you're saying to at least consider keeping him around. I think in practice, understanding that these are human beings, these are real emotions that are involved, this is a real locker room full of human beings, young human beings at that want to have a lot of confidence in the quarterback, it doesn't make a ton of sense to keep him around.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, is if you sit down with Mac and say, here's your role, instead of saying, hey, what would you like? Say, here's your role. Right now, we're going to draft a quarterback, bud. We're bringing in a veteran that you can compete with for the backup, but we're probably going to be paying the veteran if we have to, 8, 9, 10 million. You're making 2. We might have to trade you because Bailey's going to be our break glass in case of emergency guy. Mac, what do you want? Mac's probably going to say, let me go. Once you bring in a veteran quarterback, actually, it makes Mahmoud Abdul Rauf. Tremendous scorer. Originally Chris Jackson, of course, from LSU.
Fantastic basketball player.
We're going to explore this throughout the offseason. We'll continue to circle back, but it's interesting, too, and there's a Bobby Brown who has been hired as well by the Patriots.
Out of Houston.
He's
he was for a long time here in New England a football administration person.
That's his prerogative.
Reportedly has been working. Saw what you did there. Reportedly he's been working with the salary cap in Houston under Nick Caserio. So we'll be interested to see how much of his responsibilities will be concerned with the salary cap here in New England. But Tom, this to me might almost be more of a. We just lost Bears Nigerian, who did a million things for our franchise behind the scenes, organizationally and administration-wise. He has a lot of experience with that kind of stuff, Bobby Brown does. So I wonder if this is to supplement an area that needs supplementing now with Bears gone.
Well, we'll see what happens for Bobby Brown. Let's throw it to Gronky. All right, we got a minute with Gronky over at the FanDuel set. We'll stand down. We'll do a little Gronky right here. Back in just a second. Dr. Gronkowski, first of all.
Dr. Gronkowski, I love that name. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
You were always Dr. Gronkowski to me.
Because of how many surgeries I had, so now I can fix myself.
Has that thigh healed up from 2018?
Yes, it healed up, man. That was a beauty, dude. I mean, that thing was swollen to like here. I was on the Fallon show like 5 days later. I don't even know how I made it. And you can tell my pants, they were so tight. And then this one was completely normal and baggy. That's how big the quad was. But, you know, I always come back and find a way.
I'm telling you, that was after that Super Bowl in 2018. Yes. He goes, look at this. I'm in the locker room. He's like pulling up his pants. I said, I'm not getting in trouble for this, am I?
That was brutal, dude. That was one of the worst, injuries that like where you don't break anything. Worst contusion to a muscle, I think, probably in like the history of football, one of them, and definitely my worst, muscle contusion. It was brutal.
How long ago does 2018 and that diving catch that you made to win that game seem from there to here?
I mean, it's incredible. That was about 5 years ago, bro. And I can't believe it. I see the highlights all over the place because they show the Super Bowls in the previous, when you're at the Super Bowl, just getting everything hyped up, and they show that catch. And I mean, it's just unbelievable. The time flew by. It's been 5 years since that catch. It was my last catch as a Patriot. It was my last game as a Patriot too. So I'm glad that, I was able to fight through that quad injury and be able to make that catch. It's going to be a memory for life, and it's just legendary that, that's the way we went out. Super Bowl win with that big, I think it was like a 28-yard catch right to the 2-yard line, man.
Huge. Could have been a TD. You deserved it. It's funny, too, because you have that Super Bowl win, and now you look at the Kansas City Chiefs, and there is definitely a groundswell of they're the next Patriots, here they come. And I continue to say, if you do it for one decade, then you have to do it for another decade.
Yes, but they're on their way. I mean, they're on the right path, that's for sure, in order to have a dynasty, because the Patriots had a dynasty, no doubt, for 2 decades. And I say, in order to have a dynasty, the Patriots set the standard. You got to have 3 Super Bowl wins in a decade. And the Kansas City Chiefs, and a couple other championships as well, like AFC championships, winning your division. It's not like you're stinking like every other year, but the Kansas City Chiefs are on their way. They got 2 Super Bowl wins. If they have the Super Bowl win, coming up this Sunday, I would put them in the category of having a dynasty for this decade for sure. And then they got to continue it though into next year's decade as well. And I'm telling you, that's going to be tough. I mean, they're the only team that could possibly do it, but it's going to be a tough measure, that's for sure.
Last one, Bill Belichick as a TV analyst. How would that be?
I think he would be great. I mean, the guy knows the game of football inside and out, and maybe he'll bring a different personality to the table as well, being an analyst and not having to be a coach. I mean, a coach, you got to, you're positioning yourself, with everything you're doing. As an analyst, if you put coach in that factor, maybe he'll be more outspoken and be more personable. So that'll be really cool to see, and hopefully he takes the job.
Take him right under your wing. Show him how it's done.
Yes. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Thanks so much, man.
Thank you, man.
Take care. Hey, what's up, everybody? I want to bring in Marc Fucarile. He's a Boston Marathon bombing survivor, and he's got an unbelievable message. And we all understand what happened in 2013 and the fallout from it, but this is the stuff that's happening 11 years later with Marc. He's going to explain what the MARC Network is and why it's worth listening to him now as you think about your life. What if tragedy befell you?
So, hey, thank you for having me. Appreciate it. The MARC Network stands for the Mobility Awareness Resource Community. It's a centralized location for everything mobility impaired. Mm-hmm. It's inspiration, it's hope, right? And it's resources for like mobility impaired sports, a prosthetics office, prosthetic company, certain types of prosthetic legs, and just bringing awareness to the community.
So what caught me as we were speaking, you said, you never know when tragedy is going to befall you. And say, again, God forbid, we all understand that. God forbid your child has a car accident, loses a leg. He is at loose ends as to how the rest of his life is going to go. An individual like Marc, who went through this tragedy, can have the resources to help that individual, that kid, that adult, that young adult who's always had sports be part of his life, move forward. How would you do that? What would that network help that individual do, or the family of that individual get to that network?
So exactly what you said. My life changed in a blink of an eye. At 35 years old, I woke up in a hospital bed in Mass General with no leg and a salvaged left limb. And I had no idea what my life was going to look like moving forward. But I was blessed with the publicity of media around the marathon. So resources actually came to me, and people offered me help because they knew of my situation. In most cases, like you said, from a car accident or a motorcycle accident or just, an illness that creates a spinal cord injury or an amputation, those families don't get those resources. So the MARC Network provides resources, a geomap location to those resources, easy to find, easier than Google, easier than other social media platforms. It's all there. It's an engaging platform for individuals to ask questions and give back feedback to nonprofits.
What are the resources specifically?
So the resources are like adaptive sporting programs, right? Like Vermont Adaptive and their ski program, when they have, what events they have, the Abilities Expo, dates of their events. Like we're going to the LA the Abilities Expo, which will show you products for people with disabilities and the new enhancements in technology. And the problem is with that, they have 7 Abilities Expos across this country in 7 states, and that's it. So if you miss it,
say it again.
Yeah.
7 Ability Expos across the country.
Yeah, that's it.
Despite there being a massive network of
needs. We're a community of needs. People with disabilities like autism, spinal cord injuries, CP, MS, we all need resources, right? And those resources could be anything from a physical therapist. If you're trying to move from Florida to, say, California, and you're like, well, what part of California do I move to? My geomap location will show you all the physical and occupational therapists, because some disabilities require physical and occupational therapy. But let's say you're on a family vacation to Florida, and you're from Boston, and now you go down there and you have a son that has a spinal cord injury, and you're like, we want to go biking as a family, but my son with the spinal cord injury, we can't travel with his bike. But you can find a nonprofit organization down there with the resources that provide you that bike for free or a small fee, so you and your family can enjoy a bike ride in Florida without requiring you to bring all your equipment. So it's that network that's going to be available to these people easier and faster. So I'm in Paris, and me and my wife, and my prosthetic charger breaks. What would I do? I'm outside my network. If I go to the MARC Network, the Mobility Awareness Resource Community, and it's global and it's big enough and there's enough people on it, I could post and say, hey, I need help. I'm in Paris and my charger broke. And someone can respond, hey, I live nearby. I'll meet you at the cafe and we'll charge your leg.
How do you get to the MARC Network? Do you go online?
So the website is the MARC, MARC network.world, and the app is free to download in Apple and in Google Play stores. It is MARC Network 2.0 is the important part. There's a long story why it's 2.0.
But again, MARC, MARC Network 2.0, or MARC Network, MARC network.world. It's funny, you think to yourself, and I was never a great athlete. I would be called a plus recreational athlete, and I still continue to play basketball, to play golf, to throw footballs, to pitch batting practice as much as I can. And all of those things, if those were taken from me, I'd be at wit's end. And I think I look at those situations and I would say, well, I'll never do that again. And I would have resignation. You're a good example of, you don't have to say I'll never do that again.
No, it's not the case. I just spoke with a guy that said, hey, I was a marathon runner until I hurt my knee. Just right now. And I said, you can still do marathons. Just do it on a hand cycle. You don't need your legs. And he goes, I never thought of that. He goes, you know what? I'm going to look into it. Because you still can partake in a marathon just on a hand cycle, right? People don't think I ski, but I sit in a bucket with one ski as a monoskier, and I feel just as good as I did when I stood up and skied before. And as a person that gets older, your core might still be there enough, but your knees aren't. So you could jump in a monoski or a bi-ski and still have the stability and safety as an older person still enjoying. I play sled hockey with 76-year-old men.
It's awesome.
It's amazing.
It's awesome. Marc Fucarile, thank you for your time.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. All right.
God bless.